Great. That gives me space for my chai as well. Good afternoon, everybody, and delighted to be with you and to see some old friends and some new ones in this very interesting CPR policy dialogue 2020. Over half a century after being coined, the term artificial intelligence has evolved pretty rapidly, and it's poised to grow significantly over the coming decade. Initially conceived as a technology that could mimic human intelligence, it's evolved in ways that far exceeded, I think, the original conception of it back in the 50s. AI-driven technologies already entering more and more aspects of everyone's daily life, from smart home appliances to social media applications, and it's increasingly being utilized by public authorities to bring about the most significant developments in the fields of healthcare, learning, transport, fortify economies, produce increasing affluence, and even to resolve some unrelenting social problems such as pollution and food insecurity. I recently met a public health expert who was hugely excited about the potential for AI in facilitating diagnoses. Whereas the best doctor in a particular field may have seen a few thousand patients with certain symptoms, he said, an AI program could analyze millions of patients and their symptoms, thereby creating a far more accurate diagnostic tool than the best doctor in the world. This would, of course, I pointed out, require collecting the data of those millions of patients, thereby violating their privacy. Yes, he agreed, but they could be anonymized to protect privacy. Fair enough, but we still have no law that requires that, and our own government has been revealed to have sold data of our citizens to private users for a fee. Now, the pros and cons of this illustrate that as industries and governments move towards developing and deploying these technologies, their societal implications should also come into focus. In comparison to other technologies, the potential of artificial intelligence to both benefit and harm the common citizenry stands greatly enhanced. There should therefore be effective structures and safeguards to prevent and mitigate all sorts of tribulations that may arise out of an AI system, not least of which, of course, are the far greater risks of violating human rights. It's clear there's a need to find the right balance between technological development and human rights protection. Yamini already said that. After all, any innovation must be judged by the yardstick of its utility to humanity, and AI is no exception. Its development and deployment should involve opportunities, not threats. It should strengthen human rights, not undermine them. If we look for a framework within which to approach solutions to these issues, we have the supporting strength of human rights laws in four general categories. These are data protection rules to protect rights in the data sets used to develop and feed artificial intelligence systems, special safeguards for government users of artificial intelligence, safeguards for private sector users and users of artificial intelligence systems, and investment in more research to continue to examine the future of artificial intelligence and its potential interference with human rights. We don't yet know what AI technology will mean for the future of society, but we should act now to build the tools that we need to ensure it serves us rather than oppresses us, and to protect people from its most dangerous applications. For example, the imminent impact of AI, including increasing automation on employment, may soon pose a threat to the right to work and give rise to a situation where the workforce finds itself redundant. First of all, let's accept what we don't know. The Oxford Martin School issued a report saying that 30% of the jobs in 2030 will be jobs that don't exist today. So our education systems will have to prepare our children for a world in which 30% of the jobs available are jobs that they haven't been educated or trained for because they don't exist. Equally, however, there may be jobs only a specialized group of people are able to undertake, leaving the vast majority unemployed. These will call for policy responses, not just technological ones. We can't stop, and we shouldn't try to stop, the advancement of technology, but we can certainly choose whether and where to deploy its applications. For example, if AI-driven driverless cars become the norm in advanced countries, does that mean we should switch to driverless cars in India? Not necessarily. Amongst the policy considerations we must bear in mind is that some 25 million Indians have no other profession but driving, whether lorries, cars, or other vehicles. The social costs of eliminating their jobs are costs that no democratic politician can afford to overlook. Alarming estimations already being circulated about mass job losses and increased income inequality in the next decades owing to growing use of artificial intelligence. The act of replacing human brain power with machines may alter fundamental organizational structures, but with the right measures and preparedness, this issue can be addressed, including by promoting skill development and therefore job creation in new areas such as data annotation and programming and servicing AI devices, reskilling the existing workforce to undertake such jobs, and adapting our learning systems rapidly to develop future talent in accordance with the changing needs of the job market. Our objective should be to ensure that while artificial intelligence may transform businesses and improve the future of work, which we should welcome, AI eliminates some tasks only and not jobs altogether. I recognize this is easier said than done, but it's a yardstick we can apply in making policy choices. Most Indians seem to believe that the role of AI in our country today is largely confined to the expanding number of people using chatbots and virtual personal assistants such as Siri and Alexa. It's gone well beyond that. In recent years, we've witnessed remarkable and interesting cases where AI-driven assistance has helped people's everyday lives, such as a robot helping the Kerala police in their work. Robot waiters serving people and interacting in English and Tamil while helping staff in some restaurants in Chennai. And the world's first tele-robotic surgery by a cardiologist in Ahmedabad on a patient in a rural area 30 kilometers away. So while AI is already finding its way into our daily lives in a good way, with evident positive potential, it has a far greater propensity, however, to interfere with human rights. Let me elaborate by looking at the current and probable developments of artificial intelligence and the ways in which it can interfere with a broad range of human rights, including the interplay between fundamental rights and ethics. For example, the right to equality and the prohibition of discrimination is likely to be severely threatened with the widespread and rapid deployment of algorithmic decision-making by companies that can perpetuate bias and result in discriminatory outcomes, as they already have in some cases. Because of their statistical bias or basis, all machine learning systems have error rates and thus affect thousands of users. Consider the famous or now notorious example of Google Photos in 2015. Google Photos had an image recognition software that had a terribly prejudicial and in fact deeply offensive error. It was frequently labeling photos of black people as gorillas. Because the system used a complex machine learning model, engineers were unable to figure out why this was happening. The only solution they could work out to this racist AI was merely a band-aid. They removed any gorilla or monkey-related words from the list of image tags. Now go back to the Google Photos story and imagine a similar software system used by, say, Customs and Border Patrol officials that photographs every person who enters and exits a country and cross-references it with a database of photos of known or suspected criminals, smugglers, and terrorists. Now, even if the facial recognition system was 99.9% accurate, which none is so far, the 0.1% error rate would result in thousands of people being misidentified as wanted criminals and detained. I mean, the presumption used to be you're innocent until proven guilty, so that better to let 9 guilty people off the hook than to detain one innocent person. This changes that logic, inverts it completely. What would be the impact on their lives? Conversely, how many known criminals might get away? Even relatively narrow error rates in cases such as these can have severe consequences for the lives of the human beings affected. Now, what I'm talking about is not just theory. Our own Delhi police, I don't want to say much, has been using facial recognition tools by the name of the Advanced Facial Recognition Software, or AFRS, during parades and even at political rallies. It turns out the Delhi police goes around filming anti-government protests and then feeds the footage into the FRS system in order to extract identifiable faces of the protesters. They then match these faces against the Delhi police database to identify and segregate a select group of protesters who were singled out as miscreants who could raise slogans or banners at Prime Minister Modi's rally at the Ram Leela Maidan last November. I have no idea how identifying potential opposition protesters at a political rally squares with your idea of democracy, but it certainly doesn't fit into mine. And of course, facial recognition technology is not regulated by any law in India. Likewise, there are many documented cases of AI having gone wrong in the criminal justice system of other countries that use machine learning for risk scoring and predictive policing, which is an AI technique to evaluate likely offenders and uses insights to predict possible crimes. The growing use of AI in the criminal justice system is hugely impacting personal liberty in China and even in a democracy like the US. The risk scoring tools such as recidivism software, likely repeat criminals, that are arbitrary in nature as they have not been prescribed by any law, are freely being used to inform preventive detention and related decisions at nearly every stage, including from assigning bail to criminal sentencing. In the US, it has led to more black defendants falsely labeled as high risk and given higher bail conditions or sentenced to longer prison terms than whites. Cultural bias is implicit in many AI systems. I mean, the risk of sounding frivolous, just take even the simple autocorrect in many of our mobile phones. Try typing an Indian word or name and see what your supposedly smart phone will change it to. I've been a victim of this more times than I would like to admit when I tweet on my smartphone. And I once typed carefully and accurately the word ghungat once, but by that time it went out into cyberspace. My autocorrect had changed it to go hang hat, which left many of my Twitter followers scratching their heads. On other occasions, I've driven readers to the dictionary, convinced that some autocorrected typo of mine must be a word since I had used it, right? I've had to apologize so often to people that the AI on my smartphone has caught on, because every time I type the word wretched, the word predictor on my iPhone suggests the next word should be autocorrect. My wretched autocorrect is something I constantly apologize for. Now, of course, AI poses much more serious challenges than that, but these cultural biases are real, right? The right to privacy is a much more serious challenge. Our Supreme Court has held it's a fundamental right and also reinforces other rights, such as the rights to freedom of expression and association. It's essential to human dignity, and it should be protected in the AI space. Although the individual pieces of our personal data that we routinely submit to various authorities may seem inconsequential and safe, when accumulated, they can divulge important details about our lives. AI can be used to process and scrutinize all this data for anything from micro-targeted marketing to government surveillance of citizens. Big data is one of the primary drivers of artificial intelligence-based solutions, but it requires the most sensitive and secure handling and processing. There are ominous dangers lurking in this area, such as data usage without consent, identification of individuals through data, biased data selection, discrimination in AI models, and asymmetries in data aggregation, all of which could amount to huge violations of our right to privacy. Another important fundamental right that can easily be impacted by AI is freedom of speech and expression, given the growing dependence on AI systems for the control of content online. We are seeing this already in areas such as sentiment analysis, identification of fake news, and AI applications in everyday life, ranging from smart assistants to wretched autocorrect technology on our mobile devices. Our right to free speech is greatly vulnerable to violation in systems such as automated content removal used by many social media organizations and online sites, considering that technology has a restricted ability to identify the context and the tone of what we are saying. In fact, one college student told me that he and his classmates are unable to access my tweets on their college systems because in my Twitter handle, the last three letters of my first name run into the first letter of my surname, thus forming an expression that has been blocked on the college's computer systems. So artificial intelligence, in other words, is more artificial than intelligent. And it's susceptible to manipulation by intelligent but malicious human beings, as we have seen in some political parties' use of bot-enabled online accounts that act as real users and issue programmed responses to create particular choices and opinions for others. This is a real hazard to genuine free expression, and it's already being used around us. This is why it's necessary to establish suitable frameworks that can protect human rights in the current stages of the development of artificial intelligence. It's encouraging to note that major AI players such as Google and Microsoft have developed principles based on ethical concepts including justice, fairness, transparency, and accountability to guide how they pursue AI initiatives, or at least they tell us so. The greatest potential danger of the AI systems to undermine human rights protections is their capability, of course, to learn from experience and to perform autonomously for humans, which makes AI the most disruptive and transformative technology of the 21st century. So it's really terribly important that a proper legal framework comprising significant provisions such as comprehensive data protection legislation, mandatory internal ethics policies for all companies using AI, all of this should be in place to regulate artificial intelligence, to ensure that it does not become counterproductive and confront us with unmanageable implications. All countries, including India, need to be legally prepared to face this kind of disruptive technology. And we are a country that doesn't even have a law to regulate what manner of data can be captured on a CCTV camera. There are other dangers linked to the nature of our own country's realities. Imagine, for instance, that the electricity supply suddenly stops while a robot is performing surgery and access to a doctor is lost. What if a drone hits a human being or a plane carrying human beings? These questions have already confronted courts in the US and Germany. Only recently has there been interest created across the world in developing laws and regulations on smart technologies and AI. China, Japan, Korea following Germany in coming up with ethical rules for autonomous vehicles, stipulating that human life should always have priority in these programs over property or animal life. India cannot afford to be far behind. Obviously not on autonomous vehicles for the policy reasons I mentioned, but on other uses of AI. Yes, AI is still in its early stages here, but there's an emergent need to identify and address these issues if we are to anticipate and overcome the barriers we face in reaping the benefits of deploying AI at scale. As I've explained, uppermost amongst these are the privacy and security issues arising from the lack of formal regulations and legislation. While there are no specific regulations in place for AI in India, sectoral laws do exist, and they exist applying to applications of AI. For example, the Security Markets Regulator, the Security Exchange Board of India, or SEBI, has developed guidelines on algorithmic decision-making for investors looking to get into wealth management and algorithmic trading. Given the importance of intention in India's criminal law jurisprudence, my lawyer friends tell me that it's essential to establish the legal personality of AI. You know, we are a country where an idol of God in a temple has a legal personality. Shouldn't AI also have a legal personality? This would mean that AI itself will have a bundle of rights and obligations under which any sort of intention can be attributed to it. Additionally, a robust intellectual property framework with stringent and narrowly focused patent laws for AI applications is surely needed. However, predicting and analyzing legal issues and their solutions is not that simple. For instance, criminal law is going to face drastic challenges. Since AI is considered to be inanimate, a strict liability scheme that holds a producer or manufacturer of a product liable for harm, regardless of the fault, might be something that the courts will have to consider. What if an AI-based driverless car gets into an accident as a result of a faulty program, and that accident causes harm to humans or damages property. Who should the courts hold liable? The owner of the car, the manufacturer of the car, or the programmer of the AI software? Can AI be thought to have knowingly or carelessly caused bodily injury to another? Can robots act as witnesses or as a tool to commit crimes with? So AI raises very important questions about whether our current policies, legal systems, business due diligence practices, and methods to protect rights are fit for purpose in our present times. So while it cannot be denied that the technology is still in its nascent stages, and we don't even know what all we don't know, Rumsfeld's famous unknown unknowns, then we should at the moment assess the opportunities as well as the risks that we can see today and find solutions to ensure that the emerging technologies are designed, developed, deployed, and regulated in a way that enable rather than threaten human rights. We should continue placing our trust and hope in our legal systems and select the right, timely approach that neither impedes AI's capacity to facilitate our economic growth and alleviate some of the world's most unrelenting problems, nor allows AI to flourish at the expense of our human rights. The ultimate choice will emerge from the preferences of businesses, governments, and individuals like you. It is we who will collectively determine how the AI ecosystem will evolve in the future. Let us all hope we think about it carefully today so that we get it right tomorrow. Jai Hind. Thank you. Happily.
Call the other panelists.